Hi, I'm Alicia from the Melanin Initiative podcast. Our mission is twofold. One, to simplify complex health information so you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how to manage your health, and confident to navigate the healthcare system. And two, to elevate the expertise of nurses, spotlight the diverse career opportunities within the healthcare industry, and inform our peers how to leverage their expertise as clinicians and entrepreneurs. In less than 2 years, we've grown to over 50,000 views and 1,000 downloads, with an international audience spanning the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and more. Our engaged listeners are professionals, entrepreneurs aged 25 to 44 who value authentic, impactful content. Want to connect with this dynamic audience? Advertise with us. Send in your 1 minute video ad and let's amplify your brand. Email tmi.melanin@gmail.com for rates and details. Let's work together.
In healthcare, there is often too much information and not enough time. Here at the Melanin Initiative, we avoid TMI by breaking things down into language you can understand. We create a safe space for you to ask your questions and share our nursing perspective without taking up too much of your time. Today, I'm really honored to be meeting with Jayden, who has a lot of credentials, including being a psychotherapist, a consultant, and personal trainer. They've agreed to come on for 2 episodes. In this first one, we're going to learn all about somatic therapy. They're an entrepreneur, so we're going to learn about their business journey, what it's like being a patient, misconceptions about somatic therapy, and how to make it a daily habit. In their next episode, we're going to talk all things sexual health, which has been a really popular topic on this channel. And so we want to bring as many episodes as we can because we recognize that there is a knowledge gap, and we always want to make people be informed so that they can make informed and educated decisions about their health and their body. If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and one of your co-hosts here at the Melanin Initiative, along with Alicia and Geraldine, who send their love in their absence. We're a health literacy podcast offering our nursing perspective. When we say health literacy, we're talking about your ability to obtain information, to understand that information, and then to use it to manage your health and advocate for others. By watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, we hope you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how you can navigate the healthcare system, and confident to manage your health at home. If you haven't already, we invite you to subscribe so you can be notified when we release new episodes. Thumbs up the video, leave a comment, hit the bell, hit the stars, share it with your friends and family. It lets the algorithm know that this information is important, and it'll get it to the people who really need to hear it. Remember, this show is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are our opinions alone. They are not a representation of any of our affiliations. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, you should seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you're having a physical emergency, you should call 911. If you or someone you know might be having a mental health emergency, you should call 988. Jayden, welcome to the Melanin Initiative.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this and to share your expertise as well as your time. Before we get into somatic therapy, let's get to know you. Where are you from and where do you reside now?
Yeah, I am originally from Columbus, Ohio. And if you don't know the Midwest, it's a very big city. I did not grow up on a farm or drive a tractor. And now I live in Seattle, Washington.
Okay, and so you were telling me all about your summer. So let us share with the audience how big of a summer you're having.
Yes, it's been a very big summer. I recently just did a trip back home to see family I haven't seen in like 7 to 10 years. I'm getting married in less than 2 weeks, and that is very exciting and also a little stressful. And then I am moving to Spain in August and going to be starting the next phase of my life there.
And what's bringing you to Spain?
A lot of reasons. My partner and I were both interested in moving abroad. I wanted to go to Portugal, but they wanted to go to Spain, so it's fine. I can go to Spain if you need me to, but really, I'm interested in having children and maintaining a healthy work-life balance, which financially I just can't do here in Seattle. So also just looking at what's going on in the United States right now, just wanting to experience a little something different for a bit.
Well, we wish you all the best. Congratulations. And now I can say I have friends in Spain, which I couldn't say 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you can.
So you might regret that when you see my email in 3 months from now.
Look, it's so affordable. I can get a two-bedroom there, and I'm getting one specifically. So I have a guest room where people can stay and come visit me.
That's all I need to hear. All right, let's jump into it because I know, like my audience, or like myself, the audience might not be that familiar with somatic therapy. So how do you define it?
I define it as a body-oriented practice of therapy, and so what instead of like only focusing on your thoughts and what is happening in your mind, kind of redirecting your attention to what's happening in your body, what sensations you're feeling in your body, and addressing things from the bodily perspective, which means you might not cognitively really understand what you're working through or what's going on, or maybe be able to verbalize it, but your body, which is storing a lot of the, emotional energy, and the body has its own memories, is still being dealt with. And so there's healing done from this bodily perspective.
Perfect. And before we go on, if you can tell us, the audience can't see all your credentials on the screen, but they'll be in the description box. What are all your credentials?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so I have a master's in social work and I'm an independently licensed clinical social worker. I'm also certified in school social work. So I work with a lot of adolescents. I'm certified in dialectical behavior therapy. I am a certified integrative mental health provider. So kind of building this awareness of the mind-body connection and integrating mental and physical health care. And then I'm also a certified personal trainer.
Wonderful. How did you pay for all of that?
Debt. I've decided that money is made up, and
Oh,
somehow my credit is better when I have debt, and my credit cards aren't all paid off, and I will never pay off my student loans. So I'm just living my best life and, making sure things aren't too harmful. The credit bureau don't hate me, and we're going about our lives. I mean, I also have a business that does pay the bill, so that is helpful.
perfect. We're going to jump right into your business. I only asked because in addition to doing promoting health literacy, we also do like a professional series arm, which you're participating in right now, bringing awareness to other ways to participate in healthcare besides being a nurse or a doctor. And one of the questions we like to ask people are real questions, like how do you pay for school, right? Because if we're sending people to get into healthcare, it often comes with a price tag. And so we don't want to send people blind. We want to send them informed. And like yourself, I'm in a lot of debt when it comes to student loans, but we also have a guest who comes on frequently who paid out of pocket his entire career. So it's good for people to have that information and they can do with it what they want.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's why I love doing podcasts and just making this information accessible, because I don't think that people should have to go into debt to have the information that we have. But I will say, I have definitely seen a lot of people like fundraising, and a lot of my therapist friends being like, "Hey, I want to get this EMDR certification. Like, here's a GoFundMe. Can you contribute?" So I think that's going to become increasingly popular and something I might do in the future too.
Ooh, thank you for sharing that. We haven't actually gotten into EMDR yet on the show. We filmed that. It actually will premiere later this month because we have a recurrent trauma therapist. Shout out to Kelsey Wilson. And she is introducing that. And well, actually, yeah, by the time this airs, it will already been out. But yeah, so that we have since learned that that's becoming increasingly more popular. So yeah, and it's great to hear that these are these other opportunities because even though we get a lot of education, some of us just keep going back for more, and it's good to know that we won't have to come out of pocket the way we did in the past.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your business. Tell us about your journey, the name of your business.
Yeah, so my business is TISE Consulting and Therapy, and TISE stands for Trauma Informed Social Equity. So I originally just, opened up a little LLC for consulting work. So I've been doing a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting for nonprofits and dance studios and small businesses. And so it was kind of just like a little side thing. I had a full-time private practice job. And how I engage with consulting is I really like to view systemic oppression as a side effect of trauma, right? So we know that trauma impairs your ability to empathize, and when we don't deal with trauma, we have unresolved trauma on a systemic level, right? There's large groups of people who are unable to empathize with other groups of people. And to tell someone to just like not be racist, it's like saying don't be depressed or don't be traumatized. It's often not very helpful. And so coming in and being like, okay, your body is responding to inaccurate information.
Hmm.
Let's take that non-judgmentally and figure out a way to do better while managing that response. So trauma-informed social equity is how I started my consulting business. And then I decided to go fully independent and add therapy services. And so I made a TISE Consulting and Therapy, and I've been doing that for, I think, 2 years now. And I got certified as a personal trainer uh, last fall in 2023. And so then I added in training because I'm all about the holistic healthcare. So I'm doing all of that. It's kind of a lot for one person. I also do like workshops on like you like BDSM for healing trauma, or you like movement for mental health or conflict resolution, whatever it is. But I did just hire on a life skills coach. And so they're helping a little bit with like running this business, but also now doing like some advocacy, case management, organizational help, because a lot of my clients, especially therapy clients, are like, oh yes, I want to follow up on all these things, but it's really hard without accountability, or I need essentially body doubling, so a buddy system to get things done. And so I was like, cool, let me give you an affordable option for that and hire on a life skills coach.
Wow, great for you for identifying needs from your target market. I love entrepreneurship as well. I talk a lot about it off the podcast. But one thing, when you first get in, you think you're going to do all the things, be all the things, or all the things to offer up front, but you learn through your journey that you let your audience, your target, speak to you and ask you what they need, and you don't have to offer everything up front. You can start with one thing, consulting, and then start to add on as you grow your business. And it's a beautiful sign when you have to hire help, because it's a sign that your business is growing beyond what you can manage alone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little scary and overwhelming, but it's something I'm passionate about, so it makes all the fear worth it.
Wonderful. And what's the mission and vision for your business?
The mission and vision is really to make holistic healthcare accessible. So I am not trying to be everyone's therapist. I don't want to be everyone's therapist. I love working minimally. So I want to provide people with the education and knowledge to heal in a way that is meaningful and sustainable for them. And to do that without judgment, and to have enough understanding and psychoeducation around how healing happens. So it's not just like, oh, I am anxious, I must breathe. Well, that's not always, I mean, like, kind of like yes, but there's more nuance to that. Like, how do you understand the concepts behind this so you can be informed in the coping skills that you're making and informed in your healing process? When do you actually need to rest, or when do you actually need to do a little bit more movement so you can stop being stuck, right? Like, how do you start to navigate those nuances? And I just find that people need different entry points for that. Sometimes it's therapy, sometimes it's physical training, sometimes doing something independent is really scary, so they're more likely to come to groups or workshops. Sometimes it's through consulting and bringing me into an agency and spreading the knowledge that way, right? But overall, I'm really very just passionate about viewing the body as one organism. So having the holistic healthcare and making it accessible and making sure that you're going to enjoy and be motivated for the healing that you're trying to do.
Beautiful. So you hinted a little bit. Who else is on your team?
Yeah, so their name is Rio Jorgesitas Abrin, and they are going to be my spouse in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
yeah, but we actually
family business.
yeah. And we actually met working together. And we were I was a mental health professional. They were a case manager, and we were working through the pandemic downtown Seattle with a lot of severely mentally ill and homeless populations. So essential workers, it was the time. And then they moved on to do hoarding and are now working with people with hoarding disorders. And now they are pursuing higher education and research and other social service related stuff. Um, and yeah, I don't like most people I work with. That's why I work for myself. But I was like, you are like the one person that I can work with. And yeah, so we're going to co-own this business. And it's very exciting.
Wonderful. And so in terms of your business, what services do you offer?
So in the consulting realm, I definitely do like one-on-one coaching and consulting, mainly around mental health, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then I work with a lot of like health professionals, nonprofits, and then again like dance and fitness communities, and how do they make their spaces trauma informed and more equitable. I am trained in mediation, so I also offer like mediation and facilitated conversations. I do a lot of trainings for people. You can just hire me for trainings for your agency. I also provide continuing education. Um, and then, yeah, just other workshops I'll host and also do a bit of strategic planning. And more specifically, I like to go in with organizations and say, like, okay, here's your strategic plan. I can help you fine tune it. But really, how do you implement it? Because, like, anyone can make up a strategic plan, but what are the actual barriers and specifically the internal resistance or the organizational barriers? That's like some people like this new strategic plan and some people don't, and now there's conflict, and how do you handle that conflict? So I come in and say, okay, how do we actually implement this strategic plan long term? Psychotherapy wise, I have been doing walk and talk therapy in Seattle, but since I'll be moving, I will be mainly virtual, and I do ages 13 and up. And I see couples, families, individuals. And then for personal training, again, I've been doing that in person. I'll probably do that in person in Spain as well. And then moving my Seattle clients to virtual. And then, oh yeah, sorry. And then the life coaching, that is going to be mostly virtual too. A lot of it is like asynchronous research. So it's like, oh, I need to look up a doctor for this sleep study, and the client doesn't want to do that. And then Rio goes in and gets all the information and sends it over. And then occasionally they will also do like virtual synchronous meetings as well.
Wonderful. What is walk and talk therapy?
Oh yeah. So essentially we're doing therapy where we're just walking in a really pretty place while we do it. So in Seattle, I like to walk around Lake Washington. We don't have to look at each other, which as a neurodivergent person who gets a lot of neurodivergent clients, like that's nice to have an excuse not to look at each other. But yeah, it's just being able to move our bodies. There's a lot of benefits to walking. It regulates the nervous system. There's some bilateral stimulation that's going on. It can being in nature gives a soothing effect to the brain. It essentially it likes the aesthetic. Our brains and bodies like the aesthetic of nature, and so it's a more calming environment to talk about really difficult things. And then if we ever need to sit down, we can. If we want to walk a little faster to like get the heart rate up, we can. But yeah, it's a really nice alternative to just like sitting down, which I don't know, sometimes can make people a little antsy.
I love that. I think I would try that. I have tried that when I had to have like a tough conversation with my partner. I said, "Hey, meet me at the park."
Yeah.
Because I was calm there. It calmed me down, and then I knew I could deliver a more effective message so that I could be heard and they could receive it despite my emotions about it.
Oh my God, there's so much beautiful science around having difficult conversations while walking. It also like increases your ability to empathize with others. It syncs your nervous system. So I mean, you can still be upset with the person, but you're less likely to go like full rage Hulk mode by like being on a walk together. And then, yeah, essentially kind of way the brain responds to the environment. So like if you were to try to have that difficult conversation in like a red room with rock music going, like you're gonna be more easily like amped up versus being in nature like does have that calming effect. So tons of science behind that. If you need to have a hard conversation, please go on a walk in a pretty
Yeah,
place.
that's great advice. And then you mentioned you work with dancers and athletes, and you mentioned something about what you do with them. Oh, creating trauma-free spaces?
Oh yeah, so I work with dance studios and like fitness spaces to make their spaces more trauma informed and more equitable. So sometimes I'm going in and saying, "Oh, everyone on your website is white and thin and female bodied. Well, maybe that's why you're trying to teach a hip hop class, but no people of color are showing up. You know, that might be why. So we're looking at the marketing. We're looking at, how they are delivering their messages. I'll sit in on like some of their classes, take their classes and be like, okay, well, you're teaching this cultural dance. You didn't give any cultural insight. There weren't these uh, the foundations weren't there, right? He says a hip hop class, but it was mostly choreo, not any hip hop foundations. So I'm starting into like dance jargon, but that's kind of what I'll do there. And then with like physical training, um, I will. I do very specifically like trauma informed physical training. So I'm health at every size. I'm anti diet, and I don't take on clients whose primary goal is weight loss. It can be a secondary, tertiary goal, especially working with gender nonconforming people. There is some body composition changes they may want to see. But I find that when we focus on the number on a scale, we start to lose the actual health intentions. And so I'm like, what are your health intentions? Do you want to increase your cardiovascular, your strength, your mobility? Like, what are you trying to do? What do you want to do with your body? What would it be like to feel good in your body? And also just trauma informed concepts of like asking before touching somebody, checking in to make sure like we're not pushing too hard and you're saying this is really difficult but you can push through. Like, do you actually need a break? You don't have to prove anything to me, all of that type of stuff.
Wow, that's very welcoming too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many spaces, especially fitness spaces, that are just not welcoming.
Yeah.
Especially in our culture where it's so like we're so perfectionistic, and we are so fat phobic. And now there's a video at the end of every session or every class, and people are just so hyper aware of how they look that they don't stop and see how they feel anymore. And that's really where all the yummy goodness is. Like as a dancer, as an athlete, I love movement and I understand how like empowering and wonderful and magical it is. And I think people are losing that because they're trying to look like this aesthetic and you can't look like someone else, right? Because your body is so uniquely yours. And so having a space where like no one's trying to make you look like another person, right? Which at the gym, in a class, it's so easy to fall into that trap. So creating spaces where you can really just be you. And I'm quite large, like I'm 5'9", and like I take up a lot of space. And so if anyone's gonna be looking at my client weird, I'm gonna look back at them. I will use racism to my advantage. Are you afraid of large black people? Because I'm a black mama, glare at you. Don't look at me. And don't look at my client. We're gonna be weird over here, and you're gonna mind your business, and just like having someone create that space of like, oh no, we're blocking out everything else. It's just, I think, so needed for a lot of people.
So speaking about people, let's talk about the patient experience. Someone wants to use your services. They start at the website. What happens after that?
There's a little contact form on my website. So you just shoot me a little message saying what you are looking for, what type of services. I usually do like 15-minute consults. If it's like really in depth, maybe I'll do like a 20 or 30, like, free consultation to see if we're going to be a good fit. And I like to do that on the phone. So we can just like really get our vibe, like pass the vibe check for one another. And then after that, it's really just about making sure our schedules are compatible and making sure payment is okay. I have a lot of different sliding scale options. And so figuring out what works for people and then getting set up in my system, sending them all the forms and all of that, making sure my emails aren't going to spam, a lot of the logistics stuff. But I try to make it pretty easy and smooth just because like asking for help is really difficult, so I want the process to be as simple as possible.
I love that. And so they just go on and they schedule their appointment from there. Is there a patient portal on the website too?
Not on the website, but after our consultation, if we agree to like work with each other, then I get them set up with a separate patient portal that is HIPAA compliant.
Oh, wonderful. And then you talked about pay and the sliding scale. Does that include insurance?
So unfortunately, I had to stop taking insurance because I'm moving out of the country, and insurance does not like to pay out of country providers. But I do have a lot of different payment options. So I have like usually my like for therapy, for example, is $150 a session. Um, and then I have one sliding scale range that's down to 75. And then I have a deeper sliding scale range that goes down to 30. And how many spots I have open for that is dependent on a give back rate that I have. So for people who do have a lot of financial resources and are willing to support just my practice and other people getting therapy, they can pay, I think it's $15 extra for their session, so $165 for therapy. And so essentially for every two give back rate clients I have, I can open up that $30 sliding scale slot. So I do that. And then I also have products for sale on my website. I have a Patreon that you can join for as little as $5 a month. And I have an Instagram. There we go. And I have an Instagram where I post a lot of content for free. So I try to just make some of the knowledge accessible at various levels of cost.
Wonderful. I really like that's a really great idea. That what did you call it? Give back?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really nice. I like that a lot. And so what's the visit like?
the visit.
The patient, but yeah, that when they booked an appointment and now they're gonna meet with you.
Yeah, so for psychotherapy, first sessions are always a little awkward because I do need to ask a lot of questions and to kind of get a good idea of what's going on. I think it's really fun because people don't really expect me to ask the questions that I ask. They come all prepared to tell me their life story, and I'm like, I don't need to hear all that right now. I really like feel strongly that we do not need to be talking about all of your traumatic events in the first session. Like, your nervous system should not trust me with that information. I have not done anything to earn that trust yet. And so I think when we talk about building trust and making sure we're not being vulnerable to, bad situations and people who are out to hurt us, part of that is learning like providers don't always have your best interests at heart. They're not always the best fit for you. And I want to earn that trust. And in the meantime, like, don't tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets just yet. I want to ask how things are going right now, right? What symptoms are you experiencing right now? What are you trying to do, going forward? Like, what kind of skills do you need to develop right now to make that happen? And then after a little bit, we're starting to get used to each other. You know how I like to communicate. I know how you like to communicate. We're reading each other's nonverbals. Then we can start getting into the nitty gritty of trauma and like childhood stuff because that's just so much more intense. So yeah, I asked a lot about your physical health. I'll ask you about your poops. I'll ask you about your libido. Uh, so just really trying to understand what your day-to-day life is like. For personal training, it really is. I just like, what are your goals? People have like filled out a form prior, and so I'll come in with a tentative workout planned based off of like the equipment that we have available. Because not everyone's going to go into the gym, so I go to people's homes and that kind of stuff. And I'm always like, okay, this is an assessment, so some things might feel really easy and some things might feel really, really hard. So please let me know. I try to get a good range of those things, let me know so I can really start to see like where are the areas of growth, especially comparing what I'm seeing with my eyes with uh, what you wrote in your intake form.
Wonderful. For the somatic therapy, how long are those sessions? Do they vary?
Um, they are typically 50 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. And then what's the long-term relationship? Do they come back once a week? Is it dependent on the patient? Do you follow up
Yeah,
with them?
it depends on the patient. You know, I love a good once a week. I think financially, especially now that I'm a completely private pay provider, every other week is usually the frequency that I see people. But, you know, my specialty is trauma. And, you know, the other, like, in my specialty spheres, like personality disorder, psychosis, um, and like really high anxiety and relationship conflict. So those things are often just not things that are resolved super quickly. You know, I sometimes get clients who like, you know, this thing happened. I've got an increase of anxiety from it. We meet for 2 to 3 months. Their anxiety has leveled out. I don't see them again. Cool, great. That's just not my typical client. So a lot of my clients I've worked with now for 2 or 3 years, which honestly is really, really great because you get to see them through so many different seasons of life, and uh, it's a relationship, right? And so it's really nice to have like these steady, long-term relationships.
Wonderful. Yeah, we like that a lot. What are the most common misconceptions you hear about somatic therapy or that's out there?
I think people think it needs to be like really fancy, and like there's special tricks, and that you have to have really long practices, like kind of similar to like a hour yoga practice every day. That there's like, I don't know, you enter this somatic world and you do mystical stuff, and you know that can be part of it, right? But really, somatic therapy at its essence is getting to know your body and building a healthier relationship with your body and your feelings and how your body is trying to communicate with you. And so, what that can look like is, oh, my body is communicating to me that my shoulders are tight. And that could be because you're stressed out. It could be because you've been staring at a computer all day. It could be because you're dehydrated, right? There's a lot of reasons why your shoulders might get tight. Regardless, do some shoulder circles. Do a little therapeutic shimmy, right? Like move your shoulders a bit and try and loosen them up. And having that relationship with your body and talking back to it, like, hey, there's no danger or anything. Like we can kind of relax a little bit. Um, that takes 20 seconds at most, right? And being able to find ways to implement these things throughout your day is going to be oftentimes more effective than, you know, 1 hour long somatic practice 3 times a week.
Wonderful. So that actually is a great segue to our last question on 3 tips for people to make somatic therapy a daily habit.
Oh, yes, love this. Okay. So tip number 1, neck circles. I want to just like prophesize knocking on doors. Like, have you heard of your Lord and Savior neck circles? Because we I won't even get into all of it. Neck circles, please do them as much as you can. You know, 5 one way, then the other, multiple times a day. The other thing I would say is throw yourself little dance parties. And that doesn't mean like Beyonce backup choreo dancer level dancing, right? Like get weird, get goofy, just like wiggle to a song, right? A 3 minute song in between meetings at the end of your workday, right before you're about to eat some food. Some like little happy wiggling. And then the other thing, if you want something more structured, is progressive muscle relaxation. So PMR for short, is the idea that you tense up muscles in your body and then relax them. So if you were to bring your shoulders all the way up to your ears and then drop them down, you tense them and then relax them. And there's a lot of guided videos on YouTube for this. My favorite is to suggest that people do this on the toilet. Toilet time's a great time to practice skills. You're already clenching and releasing one area of your body, ideally once a day. If not, let's talk about the regularity of your poos. So anyways, go ahead and clench and release the rest of your body. And that's really good for, teaching your body relaxation, because it's something our body must learn. And also really good before bed if you have trouble sleeping.
This was so informative. And I love that you were able to demonstrate kind of like first of all, your philosophy for therapy and care and really building relationships with people. You really showed us exactly what it's like to be your client or your patient and how you are approachable, you're welcoming, there's no judgment. It was a safe space. And you really were so thoughtful, especially when you're talking about in that first visit, I don't need to know your deepest, darkest secrets. You were honest that not every provider is going to be the best fit and that you haven't done anything to earn that trust. Like just hearing those words, you probably say them all the time, it doesn't mean any, but for us out here to hear that, sometimes we've never heard that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a right I have. That's something I should ask for. Even though walking outside, right? The idea of starting therapy can bring up a lot of emotions, anxiety, fear, and to be like, oh, I can do this in a place that makes me safe and comfortable, and it brings a smile to my face, and I can bring those two worlds together, and that's something I can easily ask for. Like you gave us so many tools, and like I said, the tone of your voice, like it was just so, you just made it so engaging and welcoming, and we thank you for that. And closing out with the tips that are practical, we can literally do those today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me and being interested. I really think it's so important to share this information, and so thanks for giving me the space to chat.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to just let us know how the audience can connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I am TISE Consulting and Therapy across the board. It's my Gmail, my Instagram, TikTok, TISEconsultingandtherapy.com is the little slash after my Patreon if you're interested in joining that. So yeah, just Google TISE Consulting and Therapy, and that's TISE, and you'll see me.
Great. And we'll put all those links in the description box. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you back to learn more about sexual health. In the meantime, everyone, you can email us your questions or show ideas at tmi.melanin@gmail.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on every social media platform. Say hello in the comments when you get there. Please share the show with your friends and family. Rate us on the Apple and Spotify podcasts and leave a comment. It really helps the show get more support, and it gets the message to people out there who need to hear it. Particularly people like you looking for information like this. When they put their questions or search terms in the search box, the algorithm will know that this is something that should appear at the top of that list. We release new shows weekly. Right now at the filming, we release them on Sundays at noon Eastern on YouTube and all your favorite podcast apps. Actually, if you follow us on the podcast, you might notice that sometimes those shows drop at 5 a.m. because I used to be a night nurse. And so we think about our night shift people coming off work and going in, and we want them to be able to catch the show without having to miss a beat. We thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.